Okay, let's talk about the part and materials screen that you get to from the parts and materials tab. Um, there are three grids. There's a main grid, which is the materials list and parts list, which is the left grid. And to the right there are two grids. Upper right is the unit types, and below that is assemblies. Now the unit types, let's touch the define unit types button. And if you're going to have materials, you need to have unit types. So there's a set of defaults, and you see these when I touch the set default fields, like per each, in other words, per unit, per centimeter, per feet. Could be per foot pounds, per inch, etc. To add a unit type that is not there, or to remove a type, you just select it and then touch remove. And to add a type that isn't there, you select it. Let's say you wanted inch pounds. You select inches and you select pounds and you touch add, and now you get inch pounds. You can, if you want to abbreviate that, like that, for example, you can do that. So you can abbreviate them, make them shorter. Sometimes it's useful to have them shorter. And that's how that works. So you can combine the three columns on the left, can be combined. At least two of them can be combined. So if you wanted centimeters or millimeters per gram, you could touch millimeters, touch gram, and then touch add, and you've got that unit type. So pretty powerful. It's flexible. So once you have unit types, you see the shortened names under the unit grid. And you just pick one, and you want to define a material that you want defined as an inch pound. You select that here on the right, inch pound. Then you touch on the lower left the plus button, and then you type in a description. Put a code of some kind in, and a price per. So this is inch pounds, so the price per would be per inch. And if you have unit weight defined under estimate fields, you can put a weight in there. You can choose to ignore that if you want. And the weight unit can be anything you want. If you want to measure in tons or pounds or grams, it's up to you, but just be consistent. If you didn't want weights, for example, you'd go back to the estimate screen, touch define fields, total weight. Let's say not. We don't care about weight. We're not interested in tracking weight. Some people would. Some people want to know how much a whole estimate weighs. For example, for how much is it going to weigh in tons? So can I truck it with a small truck, or do I need a large truck to truck it? So that can be useful for a lot of business types. Okay, so you can define as many material types as you want. There's no limit. Just remember, when you define a new unit type, first of all touch the unit type on the right, then touch the plus, then put a description in. Let's get rid of that. If you have a unit type, a material type existing, and you wanted to change it to a different type, you just select the unit or the material item on the left, the unit type on the right that you want to change it to, and then touch change. That's how you do that. And when you want to add, you have an estimate, you're building up an estimate, you want to add one of your material items to the estimate, you just simply select it and touch the arrow key, the arrow symbol to the right of the item you want. And there's acknowledgement at the bottom right that says this particular item is added to the estimate. By the way, the estimate that you're working with currently is always shown on the left bar at the bottom. We're working with customer A, estimate 2 at this point. Assemblies, we're going to talk about assemblies in more detail later, but assemblies are collections of materials, items, and labor items, and to add an assembly you've already created. You have to create the assembly beforehand, but you can touch the assembly item you want to add, put a quantity in. The quantity value is multiplied by every quantity item is in the assembly. So, and because you can put in fractional numbers or in the assembly, you can use formulas with that. That can be very handy. So you type done. Now that whole assembly, every item is added to the estimate. And if you click on estimate column in the estimate screen, you'll see the assembly column. What we just added had 3 items in it, and because in assembly the quantities and the length are already in there. So normally when you add a single item, you have to go back to the estimate screen and put in the quantity, and in some cases the length, depending on if it's a length-related item. When you add an assembly, you don't need to do that because the multiplier you put in when you add the assembly is multiplied, and the whole thing appears in the estimate without any further editing. So that's a fantastic shortcut when you're creating estimates. Well worth it. Takes some time to set up assemblies, but it's well worth it when you do that. As with all grids, you can scroll them up and down just using your finger, or you can use the arrow keys with the bottom or the top, or just move them down like so forth. Or use your finger to move it up and down as well. You can't edit any grid, so if you touched it inadvertently, it's not going to change anything. You have to touch the edit button, then you can go and change text or a number value, whatever you want. So you must put it in edit mode by touching the edit button before you change any item. That's true for all grids in the whole program, because the iPad is a touch-sensitive, largely finger-operated interface. You don't want inadvertent touches with your finger to change things. So you must touch the edit button before you change anything. That's all I'm going to say about the parts of material screen.